Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez, joined as always by my co-host, my husband, and my brother.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
Hi, I'm Travis Hunter.
This week, we're recording live from the Bates High School showers discussing the 1976 horror classic, Carrie. This film was directed by Brian De Palma with a screenplay written by Lawrence D. Cohen based off of Stephen King's first novel. De Palma utilizes the supernatural themes in King's novel without devaluing the important messages of humanity, religious zealotry, isolation, and even womanhood. Although it received mixed reviews upon release, Carrie has become a beloved classic horror staple. This film was the winner of our February Patreon poll, so thank you to all of our patrons who participated and voted. If you would like to help us decide, join us over at the Patreon at patreon.com/thepodmortem. So, what did you guys think of Carrie the first time you saw it?
I've seen this movie through a few times. I can't really pinpoint the exact time I seen it the first time, but I do always remember, and I feel like for some reason it's always on TV. Or it's like,
it is.
Yeah,
right?
No joke.
Like I always catch a bit of it and I'll stop and watch it, or I'll like, okay, all right. And then, go about my business or whatever. But I do like the movie. I don't remember. I know I was younger. I was probably a teenager, which I probably should have watched it earlier as a kid. But, but I do like the movie.
I agree. I've always loved this movie. I remember watching it as a kid.
Yeah.
Possibly a little younger than we should have.
Yes, for sure.
Running theme on this show. Oddly, before we watched it for the show, I hadn't seen it since I was in high school.
Really?
Yeah. And it's funny to me because watching it when I was in high school, you have those feelings, you relate to Carrie and you feel very sympathetic for the story.
Right.
But watching it this time as an adult, all I see it is just how dreadfully tragic
it really is.
it is.
Yeah.
And actually being able to grasp the feminist subtext
Yeah.
as an adult.
I will agree that I don't think I ever fully appreciated that aspect of it until watching it this time. Because damn.
No joke. The interesting thing to me as I was watching it this time is I knew everything, like beat for beat.
Oh, yeah.
There is something very special about this movie that you're like, oh, you're not like, oh yeah, that did happen. No, you remember.
You're like, yep.
Everything. You're like, oh shit. And I think that's a testament to Brian De Palma and all the planning that went into making this movie to where he got exactly what he wanted.
Yeah.
And it pays off in such a way that it sticks to you. Much like fake Caro syrup.
I don't think it'll come as any surprise to anybody that I love this movie. And if you've listened to any of our other Stephen King adaptation movies, I'm sure it's no surprise that I reread Carrie in preparation. I actually listened to it, and the audiobook is read by Sissy Spacek.
That's incredible.
So it gives that extra layer the book is great. I feel like this movie, at times, it's a line by line adaptation of the book.
Really?
And the fates of some characters end up being different. And surprisingly, I kind of prefer the film. Stephen King does too.
I was gonna say I read he did. There is one bone I have to pick in that regard.
Okay.
Although I do understand it, I'm still like Gordon Ramsay, just damn.
Well, I can't wait to dive into that.
Yeah, but as I said, I shouted out Brian De Palma, but I think that the real reason this is so not only universally beloved but remembered is Sissy Spacek.
Absolutely.
Piper Laurie.
Yeah.
The two of them.
My God.
They tapped into something unbelievable with these performances, and they very much deserved to receive Academy Award nominations.
Yeah.
Which, again, at that time, horror.
Unheard of. Yeah.
That wasn't a thing.
At that time, still.
Never.
Yeah.
They fucking hate it.
I still don't understand that.
No. To piggyback a little bit on Sissy Spacek very quickly, I watched a documentary, I know you did too, T, about the film, and apparently Brian De Palma had his eye on somebody else to play Carrie. In the documentary, they don't say who, but on IMDb, they said that it was Amy Irving, the actress that played
Sue.
Again, I don't know if that's true, but
I don't know either.
that's what IMDb said. But she had called Brian De Palma. Well, what the art director on this film is Sissy Spacek's husband,
Right,
Who she's still married to,
Jack Fisk.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
is badass. But
I don't know why I love hearing marriages lasting
I know.
a long time in show business.
yeah, because
Come on.
it's unheard of. But she wanted to be Carrie, and like I said, Brian De Palma had his eye on somebody else. And she called him and was like, look, I have a commercial the same day that the reading for Carrie was. Should I come or should I do the commercial? He's like, do the commercial. So she was fucking pissed and she showed up to read for Carrie anyway.
And she used that anger.
And she used the anger. She said she didn't even wash her face. She went in there all disheveled, all pissed off. They tried to put makeup on her and she was like, get away from me. And she went and did it and she blew everybody away. And
Wow.
it's like, without that rejection, you know, her using that rejection
Exactly.
to fuel her,
Yeah.
we might not even, this movie would have been completely different.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great lesson, period.
100%.
Sometimes rejection could be the best thing that ever happened to you.
Because I feel like most people would have been like, well, let me get this sure money during
Yeah.
this. But she was like, no, fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be Carrie.
Like,
and she did it.
I'm not hawking Colgate. I'm going to be fucking... No, I think it's a great thing, and it's a great story.
It is.
And the other interesting thing is that she was the set dresser on his previous film,
Yes,
Brian De Palma.
yeah.
I don't even think that he knew that she was an actress.
Well, yeah, Jack Fisk had said that that's all he saw her as, was the set dresser, because she had just filled in.
Right.
Don't
So
let
it's
people
like-
pigeonhole you.
Yeah. There's so many lessons here.
Yeah.
Now, before we plug this film up, we would like to issue a warning for spoilers. Podmortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, then let's bow our heads. So the film opens on a girls' high school PE class playing volleyball. In the back row is Carrie White, as we said, played by Sissy Spacek. The other girls tell Carrie to hit the ball as it comes to her, but she misses it, and everyone is super pissed.
They overreacted.
Yeah.
Fucking mad.
This was not for a title. This was a gym class. And they're like, you eat shit.
No, yeah.
That was fucking rude.
As-
I was
Very.
like,
As they leave the court, Carrie is yelled at, hit in the head with the hat, and told to eat shit by Chris Hargensen, played by Nancy Allen. Next, we get the title card as we pan through the girls' locker room. The girls are dressing, gossiping, roughhousing, and showering. And we pan through in slow motion as music swells. And it's a pretty beautiful opening. I mean, if you know in your heart that these women are all in their 20s and they're not actually 17 years old. But for a horror film, I feel like this was very artistic. John Paul was like making faces, but
yeah.
I wasn't.
The music's just so happy. I was like, what the
Well,
they're
fuck?
showering.
I think
The hell
they're
does that get
clean. For me, I thought that it was the music helped sell how lighthearted it was for these girls.
Right.
And then I think that showing that in the haze of them free, naked, partially naked,
Yeah.
and then getting to Carrie, you see this contrast
Oh,
between,
yeah.
you know, their freedom, her isolation, and I think the music helped really sell that.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
And the haze of the steam is just really well shot.
But everyone seems to be having a naked blast, except for Carrie, as you said. And she, like you said, is in the steaming shower all by herself. We get kind of an extensive sequence of her showering.
Okay, this might have been a little too much.
A little too.
I think I downloaded the wrong Carrie movie.
Yeah. Is this the soft core?
Yeah, but-
I read that although the women that were cast knew that they were going to be either nude or semi-nude in the scene, and they were all horrified. But Sissy Spacek recorded this first, and when they watched it, they were like, "We can do it." Like this kind of empowered them and gave them the strength to be in their underwear or be running
Yeah.
through the locker room
Right.
naked.
I think that's great. I do agree that her in the shower could have been shaved by like 10, 15 seconds
yes.
and
Yeah.
still get the same point across.
Yeah.
But I digress.
But she's washing, and she finally drops the bar of soap, and we see bright red blood running down her inner thigh. Carrie raises her hand and looks at the blood in confusion and just horror. Now, in that documentary, and T, I'm sure you look like
I was chomping at the bit, but go ahead.
I really loved this kind of piece of trivia because when they filmed this, her husband was in the shower with her. He's, obviously off camera,
Right.
but she had asked Brian De Palma, how am I supposed to react to seeing this blood? And he said, you're supposed to react like you've just been hit by a Mack truck. And she's like, what the fuck does that mean? So she had told her husband, and he actually had been hit by a truck or by a car when he was a child.
Shit.
Yeah.
And so he's like, let me tell you exactly what that feels like. So he said he was standing in the street looking at Christmas lights, and then a moment of realization, oh, this car is going to hit me, and then just being hit. And he kind of coached her through that. And that's why there's this moment of like almost peace when she's bathing, and then, kind of what the fuck? And then it all kind of sinks in. But I thought that was really...
And as you watch the scene, you can see that transition between playful, the truck, Christmas lights,
and then you're hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, wow.
Very well done.
Yeah.
That was just, I was like, damn, because she freaks out after a minute, and I'm like, holy shit. It's like, what happened?
It goes from 0 to 100.
Oh, yeah. Miles per hour.
Yes. But she turns toward the rest of the girls who are now dressed and starts toward them. She rushes over and grabs Sue Snell, played by Amy Irving, getting blood on her shirt. Sue pushes her away, and Carrie begins to scream for help. She's crying as the girls begin to laugh at her, and Carrie backs up until she's back in the corner of the shower. Now everyone, including Sue, Chris, Norma, played by PJ Souls, and Helen, played by Edie McClurg, open a dispenser and begin pelting her with pads and tampons, all while chanting, plug it up, plug it up.
So this honestly infuriated me.
Oh, yeah.
Because why are you acting like Carrie's the only woman this has ever happened to?
Well, here's the thing. I feel like everybody else is like, okay, it's your fucking period. So what? Mm-hmm. Carrie doesn't know what the fuck is happening.
True.
So I feel like they're all like, why is she overreacting?
Right.
Like, we're all 17 years old, 18 years old. We all have periods. Like, who cares? Carrie's like, what's a period?
Yeah, still, but I mean, they're throwing
Not to defend. No, this is like the most horrible thing you can do to someone.
You're like, well, some kids should be bullied. Yeah. I'm like,
no, I understand. I was like, damn, even the nerd girls making fun of it. I was like, what
the nerd?
Like, I was like, what are y'all doing?
It's just not right.
A note on PJ Souls really quick too. She had auditioned wearing that red hat, and Brian De Palma was like, okay, show up in that hat.
Yeah.
And so she did, and she wasn't even supposed to really have any lines. When they go back inside after they're all pissed off at Carrie for missing the volleyball, she took her hat off and hit Carrie with it. That wasn't in the script. And Brian De Palma was like,
I love it. The other thing that's interesting is, if I'm not mistaken, her performance in this film got her the role of Linda in Halloween.
I love that. They're almost the same character.
They really are. I mean, honestly.
But the coach, Miss Collins, played by Betty Buckley, finally notices the commotion and goes over. She grabs Sue and asks her what's going on. And Sue's like, Carrie got her period. Like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, carry on. No pun intended.
Sue, come on.
Yeah.
So Miss Collins pushes through the rest of the girls to get to Carrie. Thankful to see her, Carrie grabs Miss Collins by her white gym shorts, staining them with blood.
Mm-hmm. I do love how she grabs Sue and she's like, no, what are you doing? Like, not physically what are you doing, but what is wrong with you?
Why are you doing this?
So I like that Carrie had someone that was coming to her defense.
Right. But Carrie continues to scream hysterically until Miss Collins slaps her across the face.
She had no choice.
I don't know if you remember this, T, when we were kids and we were watching this movie, we made a list of how many times people get slapped in this movie.
Oh, it was...
We were literally the top of the page, we wrote Carrie slaps.
How could I forget that? Like, come on.
I was thinking about that when I was like, we had nothing better to do.
No, well, I don't see anything wrong with doing that. I thought it was a grand time. One thing that's very interesting to me is that Betty Buckley plays like an authority figure in this film, but she was only a couple years older than these actresses. So that must have been a very interesting...
weird dynamic.
Yeah.
But after she slaps Carrie, the girls all watch amused, except for Sue, who now looks uncomfortable. Like, she's like, nah, this is pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
Miss Collins still tries to console Carrie, but Carrie starts screaming again. At the same moment, a bulb overhead just explodes.
Norma's like, did you see that? I'm like, laugh now, but I mean,
It's all fun and games right now.
deserves a bigger reaction than that.
She's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
But Carrie finally allows herself to be consoled and held by Miss Collins as she continues to cry, and Chris and Norma are just laughing. Miss Collins tells everyone to leave, and they do, but she turns to Carrie and asks her, doesn't she know what's going on? And Carrie just looks wide-eyed and terrified. The next thing we see is Carrie sitting in the front office. Kids that walk by the office knock on the glass to tease her, and even the secretary is like, what's this bitch doing here? Like, she looks annoyed.
See, and that's when I was like, is it everyone? Like, it wasn't just the girls in her gym class. These fuckers are just strangers walking by, and they're like, oh no, it's Carrie
Fuck
White.
her.
Like, geez.
What the hell?
Can she have a moment, please?
No. But inside the principal's office, the principal, Mr. Morton, played by Stefan Girish, says that he would think a girl in high school would know the facts of life by now. And Miss Collins is like, okay, well, she didn't.
Yeah, I mean, we're here now, so.
As Mr. Morton eyes the blood on her shorts in horror, Miss Collins explains that she kind of even understood how the girls felt because even she wanted to grab Carrie and shake her for freaking out over a period.
The principal looks like he wants to sink into his chair.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, grow the fuck up.
It's just so childish.
It really is.
But Mr. Morton uses his intercom to tell the secretary to send in Cassie Wright. It's like you couldn't get
God
one
damn.
name right.
How do you fuck up both names?
Miss Collins corrects him. Carrie White. Carrie comes in, clutching her books with her head down. She just looks fucking defeated. Mr. Morton greets her. Hello, Cassie. Miss Collins corrects him again.
I just told you.
Literally 2 seconds ago. He tells her that she can take the rest of the day off and go home. He calls her Cassie again, and she looks down at the ashtray on his desk.
I'm like, he's just trying to piss her off.
She corrects him herself this time. It's Carrie, and the ashtray begins to move. He asks her if she would like to go lie down in the infirmary, and Miss Collins is like, she can just go home.
Yeah, with what, Dr. Katawaki or whatever?
The ashtray continues to shake on his desk, and Miss Collins tells Carrie that she can be excused from gym for a week. Good.
Yeah, good deal.
But Mr. Morton continues, we're all very sorry about this incident, Cassie. And finally, Carrie has fucking had enough. She yells, it's Carrie. And the ashtray flips onto the floor and she just fucking leaves.
So the thing about the ashtray is that it was kind of on the edge, but it flips off in a way that was not...
It flips off like it was like...
indicative of
It.
how precarious it was, you know? And nobody says anything.
Yeah, how did nobody see that?
I don't
you
know.
Don't see this thing wobbling around right there making
Right
noise
in front of you.
No, and it was.
Yeah.
It was like
The music too, and the scene. I was like, this is necessary.
It's trying to sell the powers, man.
But as Carrie walks home, a boy on his bike goes past her. He circles back to taunt her, going, creepy Carrie, creepy Carrie. What's funny is that it's Betty Buckley's voice doing that.
Yes. I don't know why they replaced the voice.
I don't know.
I saw in that documentary that the kid was played by Brian De Palma's nephew.
Yes.
And
They're like, he's got the look, but not the sound.
no, it's Betty Buckley. But you can really tell that it's not a little boy and that it's a woman when he's like, oh, groaning. You're like, that sounds exactly like Betty Buckley.
But why? She hasn't even done
She's done
anything. What the
nothing.
No.
fuck? Why is she creepy Carrie?
I
What?
don't know. But just as quickly as he starts chanting at her, Carrie just looks at him and he fucking eats shit and falls into the grass.
But he looks at her like, what the fuck?
But she puts her head back down and he's just staring at her like. So the next thing we see is a woman walking up the driveway to a house. Inside the house, Mrs. Snell, played by Priscilla Pointer, sits inside enjoying a drink and a TV show.
There's a picture next to her that we'll talk about in a little bit.
Oh, okay. The doorbell rings and she gets up to answer, obviously not wanting to leave her TV show. She opens the door to reveal Mrs. Margaret White, played by Piper Laurie. Now, Piper Laurie was brought out of retirement to do this. They said she hadn't done anything in, 15 years?
Yeah, 1961.
Jeez.
And thank God they did,
No, yeah.
because holy shit.
She creates such a character.
I mean,
nobody else could have played Margaret White.
And watching that documentary, a lot of stuff that we see that makes this film so memorable, she's behind it.
Yeah,
so
very
it's like,
interesting.
We should all be very thankful that she came back to do this. But they kind of exchange pleasantries, and Margaret stands there awkwardly until Mrs. Snell invites her inside.
And she thanks her emphatically.
Yeah.
Margaret comes in and immediately sets down her bag and starts rummaging through it. Mrs. Snell points out that Carrie and Sue are in some of the same classes and maybe Carrie would like to come over and visit sometime, but Margaret shuts that shit down. She's here on the Lord's work. She's not here to fucking socialize.
Yeah, I don't care about play dates. Fucking Jesus Christ.
I'm all for the religion and whatever, but I was having a drink and watching TV.
Right.
Fuck out of here, man.
Could
This
not
was
have been
me time.
more
Yeah.
chill.
But Margaret says she's spreading the word of salvation, and Mrs. Snell just looks thrilled to have her there. Margaret gives her a book for teenagers, saying that they're wandering through the wilderness of sin and they all need saving. Mrs. Snell informs her that Sue's a good girl, and Margaret's like, well, these are godless times.
Well, I just want to point out that she disarmed me, Margaret, because she's dressed like she's in a coven.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, she's going to be cool as shit.
Nope.
No.
But to the sentiment that these are godless times, Mrs. Snell goes, I'll drink to that, and raises her glass and immediately regrets
Yeah, she's like, I will read the literature. I'm so sorry.
But the phone rings and Mrs. Snell excuses herself to answer it. Margaret stays in the living room looking through her Bible as Mrs. Snell audibly tells the person on the phone, laughing, that Margaret White is here. Let me just get rid of her.
I can't tell you how much I loved that. Honestly, because it's telling you so much.
It really is that they don't have to say some lady. It's like, well, Margaret White is here and you know what the fuck that means.
And now we know Carrie White, we know Margaret White. So now we're like, okay, well, fuck. She's getting it from all sides at school.
Yeah.
And this is her mother.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've already set up, you're not excited, that's the wrong word. You're interested in seeing their dynamic when they eventually share a scene together.
Yeah. As soon as Mrs. Snell comes back into the room, Margaret tries to read to her from the Bible, and we see Sue enter and stand in the background as Mrs. Snell is like, look, let me just give you $10.
Yeah. How much to make you leave?
Yeah. Margaret angrily takes the money. I mean,
She still took the money.
Yeah. She didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
and she puts her things away. But on her way out, she dramatically turns around to tell Miss Snell that she hopes she finds Jesus.
So yeah, cool. Okay, great.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, you're on your way out, remember?
As she leaves, Sue comes to the door and is like, isn't that Carrie White's mother? And it's like, yeah, it is. Interestingly, though, when Brian De Palma cast Amy Irving to be Sue, he cast her mom, her actual mom, to play her mom in the movie.
That's pretty cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like it gives this built-in chemistry.
Yeah. It's like, I'm sure immediately comfortable already, and you already have that dynamic.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
I know. I didn't know that until watching it, watching that documentary.
Right.
I thought that was really cool.
And I think this was this Amy Irving's first film? It was a lot of people's first film.
It was a lot of people's, yeah.
So to have
probably
that
was.
presence on set would be pretty great.
True. So next we see Margaret walking up to her own house, and the camera zooms way into the upstairs window to show Carrie looking down, like waiting for her to come home.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, because there are so many of these shots in this film, these diopter shots where you have double focus. And I believe that there's a focus on the for sale sign of the house as well as Carrie up in the window. And it's very interesting because they use this a lot. There's one shot in particular that was basically used in Jordan Peele's Us.
Yes, I had the exact same thought.
But we'll get to that in a bit.
But like you were saying, super dramatic music plays as Margaret enters the house. The phone rings, and when Margaret answers it, the camera goes back and forth between Carrie listening from upstairs and Margaret, who is on the phone but barely says anything to whoever called. She's just like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Top secret.
Yeah. But she finally hangs up and says, I know you're listening. She tells Carrie to come downstairs, and Carrie kind of straightens her clothes and her hair and then comes down.
The music is so eerie.
Yeah.
When she makes her way downstairs, you're like, what the fuck
What
is
is
about to happen?
But Carrie asks her mother, who was on the phone, and Margaret turns and simply responds, you're a woman now. Fuck.
she's like, I still don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But Carrie begins to cry and asks why Margaret didn't just tell her. In response, Margaret slaps Carrie to the ground with the book that she's holding. Like, slaps her in the
book. It was the Bible.
Well, it's a book.
It's a bestseller.
Number 1 bestseller. She then opens what'd you say it was? A Bible?
I believe it's a Bible.
She then opens the Bible and begins to read from the passages, the sins of woman. And you're like, fuck, man. Like,
Is that part of the Bible?
I don't know, probably.
All right, there's a lot of stuff in it. It's a big book.
There's a lot of misogyny in there.
That's not a lie.
There's a lot of stuff in there. Yeah. But what does that have to do with their period? Why is she like hitting her with the
'Cause
Bible?
The periods, isn't
It's
it
like
the curse?
the
Isn't it our
precursor.
No,
punishment?
but I mean, why do you got to hit her with the Bible?
You don't.
because of-
Oh, that's
don't.
unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's a Margaret White original. But yeah, she smacks Carrie in the face with it until she complies and starts repeating after her.
She's frightening.
Margaret White?
Margaret
Oh,
White.
Yeah.
she's terrifying.
Piper Laurie brings so much, like a commanding power
Yeah.
to this role.
Yeah.
It's scary.
At this part, I was like, "Oh, she's a witch, but not a good one."
Right.
Yeah, I was like, not a good one.
But Carrie tries to tell her that she was so scared she thought she was dying, and all these girls are just laughing at her. Margaret just continues to yell and hit her until Carrie repeats, the first sin was intercourse and that Eve was weak. She's like, Eve was weak.
Yeah, she's like fucking. No, she's like, say it, woman. It's like, God damn.
God.
The other thing that's really crazy to me, and honestly, one of the saddest little things in the film, as she's getting hit, she's still talking.
Yeah.
Like, this is not
No, she's- this
something
isn't taking
that's gonna
her- yeah.
stop me in my tracks. Did you just hit me? No, this
No, this
is
happens all the time.
everyday life.
Yeah.
So sad.
And they had talked about in that documentary how they kind of fed off of each other and how even when the scenes would get physical, they would just kind of fuel each other and to keep like their scenes together are insane.
No, yeah.
Their chemistry is just beyond.
Yeah. But Margaret starts to cry as she preaches that the Lord visited Eve with the curse of blood, I guess, as we kind of were talking about. But I kind of wanted to mention the camera work in this scene because we're either looking up at Margaret from Carrie's point of view or we're looking down at Carrie from Margaret's point of view. And
Right.
just the back and forth is like,
And
ugh.
the thing is about those angles is when you have her looking down at Carrie, that's a belittling angle
Oh, yeah.
to make her look small. And then when
Yeah.
you have her looking up at Margaret, that's a powerless angle to make whoever's
Yeah.
in the shot appear more powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's it's the camera work, we're going to talk in a bit. They do some very interesting stuff in this film.
But Carrie just says again that she should have just told her. And she should have
She should
just
have.
told her. But Margaret drops to her knees and takes Carrie's hands and she prays to God for Carrie's sinful ways because if Carrie never would have sinned, then she would have never gotten the curse of blood, which is
That's not how
What?
it works.
wow.
Yeah, that's-
Hey, did she go through the same sex education that we did in high school?
Did you in my health class, we had to sign a paper promising to stay virgins until we were married. Does any other state do that? 'Cause
Was that legally
I-
binding? Because yeah, because we had to sign that in our high school.
I didn't sign
High
mine
school?
in
Yeah,
high
in
school
high
health
school.
class. I think it was my senior year.
And they told us all this
What?
stuff was a sin, and
Yeah.
they told us that condoms are like 5% effective.
Yeah.
And
Condoms
Yeah.
don't do anything.
yeah, I don't even know why you buy them.
Yeah. So if you took health in
That-
Texas, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
guys.
me too. Because holy
I'm
shit.
like, really? Does any other state do that?
No,
or is
because
it
our
just
teacher
us?
was basically
They
Margaret
did-
White.
They didn't do any of that at our high school.
Really?
They gave us condoms.
Oh no.
Oh no.
No.
Yeah,
no,
not at
yeah,
all.
don't. It's
They-
where these don't have unprotected sex.
They burned us. No, they didn't. But
We didn't go to the same school.
No,
No.
yeah.
But anyway, Carrie says that she hasn't sinned, and Margaret tells her that she can see it on her just like God can. I'm just like, lady, God damn.
so it's got the eyes of God now.
But she literally drags Carrie through the house into a closet next to the kitchen and like throws Carrie inside and leaves her in there, closes the door and stands against it and starts praying. In the closet, Carrie is screaming at the top of her lungs and banging on the door to be let out. But she finally just stops and lights a candle next to this horrifying sculpture. Growing up, I always thought it was Jesus.
So did I.
But I guess it's Saint Sebastian.
I don't know. Like the fish from...
No.
No? You know what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
Little Mermaid or some shit,
Yeah.
right?
I think that's what it is. That's what it was named after.
It kind of looks like present day Weird Al.
It's
when I was a
very
kid,
creepy.
I
It
always
is.
thought it looked exactly like Margaret.
Yes, the eyes and the hair.
Yeah,
It
I
looks a
was
lot like her.
Ooh, like
I
is
didn't
that
even
on
think
purpose?
about that.
Considering that, interesting.
Very,
Yeah.
very, yeah. But Carrie just looks up at it and prays. Because again, this does not seem to be like this has never happened before.
Right.
No, this is
And
Thursday.
Isn't Margaret like go to your closet? Like this is it. It's horrible. But
And I would like to say I am not a religious man in the
You're not?
slightest. No, I know it's a big surprise. But I do know that this is not typically how it goes. This is religious zealotry,
run amok,
and absolutely child abuse.
100%.
Right. But I knew a few people in school, their parents, not to
I was
this
gonna say they threw them in a
extent,
closet.
but they were bad like that. Like kids, they wouldn't let them go out anywhere. They would, you know what I mean, just school and home, and they would have to go to church every like two times on Sundays and on Wednesdays and this and that. And I was like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
One might say too much.
Yes, I would.
But that night, Margaret is just calmly using her sewing machine like nothing ever happened. And Carrie quietly comes out of the closet. Margaret stops and kind of stares forward. Carrie just thanks her, and Margaret's like, you can go to bed now.
No dinner?
No. The prayer was dinner. Carrie kisses her on the cheek before going upstairs, and Margaret smiles like, job well done.
Yeah. Mother of the year.
I just saved her soul.
That's the thing, is that she thinks
She
she's
really thinks
Yeah.
she
that.
thinks she's doing the right thing.
If you look at this movie from Margaret White's perspective, it's scarier
Oh, absolutely.
because she really does.
Yeah,
She thinks she's
no.
doing the right thing. This is not abuse in her mind.
No.
But upstairs, Carrie stands in the mirror and is just crying. There's a picture of Jesus behind her. Like, he's like, Carrie, come on now.
See, to me, I don't mean to get too heady or whatever, but Carrie in the mirror with Jesus over her shoulder, she feels trapped.
Oh, yeah.
And that shot is her internal struggle, literally. She's trapped in a box.
Yeah.
Jesus on her back. I mean,
No, that's a very good point.
and then what happens next is basically the film. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
That picture, that kind of, to me, looked like Dave Chappelle when he plays Prince. I don't know why.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not Jesus.
She's a big fan.
Dave Chappelle.
Game.
Blouses.
Anyway, as Carrie's looking at her reflection, the mirror kind of starts flexing. And in the novel, that is what she calls it when she's able to move stuff, or it feels like she's flexing.
Right.
And I feel like that was a really good visual representation
Right.
of that.
You think that's why Ari Aster used that word in Hereditary?
Ooh, yes. Now I do.
All right.
But downstairs, Margaret is singing to herself as she sews and is completely ignorant to what's happening upstairs. Upstairs, though, the mirror continues to flex until it shatters. And like you said, I feel like that it's such a visual representation of what is happening.
Yes. And I would like to say that the music that goes on while the flexing and the shattering is the violin from
It is
from Psycho.
Yes.
The interesting point about that, which I saw in a documentary called Visualizing Carrie, is that Bernard Herrmann, who did the music for Psycho, who's like a prolific composer, was supposed to do the music for this, but he passed away.
Oh man.
And so the composer that took over, this motif was kind of a tribute to.
Utilized it. I
Yeah.
love
All right.
that.
So I thought that was very sweet, honestly.
Yeah.
And it comes up more than once.
And
I know.
So
it fits too.
It
like
does.
It perfectly fits.
very, very well.
But Margaret hears the shattering downstairs and goes to see what happened. She tries to open Carrie's door, but it's locked, and she demands that Carrie open it. And she's like, it is open. We see that she's just kneeling in her room.
Yeah. The thing is that Margaret seemed genuinely concerned about Carrie, and I thought she was going to be more like, pissed
Yeah.
Yeah.
after what I just saw. But she was like, Carrie, I'm like, what the
Well,
fuck?
again, in her mind, she
She's-
is only being good to her. She's trying to save her.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, that's, it's the scariest part of the fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
But Margaret asked what that sound was, and Carrie's like, well, I don't know what you're talking about.
Sound?
Yeah. Margaret's like, you can go to bed now, and leaves. And now alone, Carrie just looks up at the mirror.
Which is back in place.
Thank you.
It's just
'Cause
shattered, but the glass is back
Yeah.
up.
I wanted to ask that too, because you clearly see it fall out,
All of
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
and then now it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if she fixed it with her power.
Right.
I would assume so.
She's quick.
Yeah.
She's like, this bitch is going to come up here. So the next day, Carrie sits in the back of the class taking notes as Mr. Fromm, played by Sidney Lasik, reads a poem while walking up and down the aisles of the classroom. Tommy Ross, played by William Catt, does not look interested. Now, I know that we've talked about a lot of trivia in this movie, but this might be the most important one. 9 short years after this film, William Catt would go on to star in the greatest horror film of all time, House.
That's right.
How did I know you were going to work that in here?
I had to.
You love it so
It's
much.
William Catt. Also, this is actually an interesting piece of trivia. For the auditions or for the readings of, well, I guess it was technically the readings for Star Wars George Lucas was holding, and Brian De Palma was just kind of there. William Catt actually read for Luke Skywalker.
The fuck?
Yeah, and ended up, Brian De Palma was like, yeah, I like that kid.
I
And
read-
ended up being Tommy Ross.
Amy Irving and Sissy Spacek read for Princess Leia.
That's crazy.
And by all accounts, I guess if it was a dual audition, Carrie Fisher probably read for Carrie.
Oh man, I can't even
Yeah.
imagine that.
So that's interesting.
But anyway, the house is amazing. But when Mr. Fromm finishes the poem, we learn that Tommy was the one who wrote it. Mr. Fromm comments that this is very different than running touchdowns and hitting home runs, and Tommy laughs. Mr. Fromm then asks if anyone has any criticisms, and when nobody answers, Carrie quietly muses, "It's beautiful." Of course, the entire class laughs at her.
And this is where I hate the teacher.
Yeah, no, because even Mr. Fromm starts mocking
Yeah.
her.
And he's going in on her. It's like, you're the adult in the room.
Everyone is having a great time kind of laughing and roasting her. And Tommy looks pissed off.
Yeah.
As Mr. Fromm continues to mock Carrie, Tommy goes, "You suck."
Yeah.
No lies detected.
No.
But this is also where we get that diopter shot
Yes.
Yeah.
that is basically Jordan Peele's
I thought
Us.
of it immediately.
Yeah.
But the teacher turns on him. And I remember we used to say this when we were kids. "Tommy,
Yeah.
did you say something, Tommy?" But Tommy's like, "I said, aw, shucks." And then
They
the
laugh.
class laughs even harder.
Why is that one girl dressed like Mario?
I didn't even catch that.
I wish I had.
I was like, what the fuck?
I was just laughing at the look on the teacher's face. He's like, I can't dispute that because
Yeah.
I didn't really hear him. But all right, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Sure, aw, shucks. The next thing we see is PE class, and Miss Collins is calling roll in the gym as the custodian scrubs off "Carrie White eats shit" written on the wall.
Which, again, I'm like, that's not even bathroom graffiti.
No, this is
Yeah.
on the wall of the gym.
How ate up are you with Carrie White? Who's really winning here?
Yeah.
These are fans, Carrie. They're
Seriously.
fans. But Carrie looks in through the door and immediately leaves before anybody sees her. Miss Collins calls the girls to line up, but they continue to sit and talk on the bleachers, and Miss Collins is not having it, and she yells at them. Everyone listens and gets in line except for Chris, who has to be told again.
I already have so much sympathy for Carrie going into this scene. Part of me wanted to see her just one by one fighting these girls. I swear to God.
I would have loved that.
Like an old kung fu movie.
Or like Old Boy.
Yeah, there you go. Just working her way through the hall.
I know they're all assholes, but I love every girl's hair in this movie.
Oh my God, the hair
Yeah.
is fucking fantastic.
It's
Not
on
just
point.
the girls. Can we talk
No,
about
yes,
Tommy
yeah.
Ross's hair?
Well,
It's I love it. It's fantastic. But when Miss Collins tells Chris to take the gum out of her mouth, Chris is like, "Well, where should I put it?" And Miss Collins is like, you can choke on it for all I care. And I feel like at this point, everybody's like, we're in trouble.
Yeah. This is about yesterday, isn't it?
I knew you were going to bring this shit up. But after Norma gets in trouble for smiling, Miss Collins tells the class that they did a really shitty thing to Carrie White yesterday. And did anyone ever stop to think that she has feelings too? But they're probably all too busy thinking about prom. And she asks Chris who she's going with because she can have her pick. And she tells Miss Collins Billy Nolan. And she makes her repeat it like 4 times.
Yeah, she's like, what's that? I'm sorry, I can't fucking...
Sorry, can you speak up? But Miss Collins is like, isn't he the lucky one? And it's like, oh,
damn.
But she asks Sue who she's going with, and Sue tells her Tommy Ross, the one with the great hair.
The interesting thing about that is Amy Irving and William Catt were ex-boyfriend and girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
And I said that I was going to bring up a picture from earlier. There's a picture next to Sue's mom of the two of them when they were actually dating.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
So that wasn't a picture taken for the film. It was from their real life.
That's really cool.
That's funny.
But Miss Collins says that her idea for their punishment was 3 days suspension and refusal of their prom tickets. And the girls are immediately mortified. Miss Collins says that it's what they deserve because they really don't understand how horrible what they did was. But that the office decided their punishment is going to be 1 week's detention, but it's detention with her. And it's going to be 50 minutes every day on the athletic field. And to me, they're getting off really easy.
Yeah, because, I mean, they fucking group bullied the shit out of a defenseless kid.
Yeah, everyone is pissed. You're very lucky.
Yeah.
But Chris comments to Norma that she's just not going to go. And Miss Collins, again, is not having
No,
it.
I'm like, headbutt her, coach.
Kick her ass.
Yeah.
But she tells Chris that failure to show up at detention will result in 3 days suspension and refusal of their prom tickets. And no one has anything to say at this point because it's like,
Well, yeah.
we've been defeated.
Yeah.
And Miss Collins dismisses them to go dress out for Jem. But Chris reiterates to Norma that she's not coming.
Does she really think she can just skip?
Yeah, she does. Well, in the book, it's very much the same, but Chris's dad is a very well-known lawyer who actually comes and threatens to sue the principal in the school and the coach for cussing at them and saying what they did was shitty. But the principal gets pissed off and he's like, okay, you go ahead and file suit and we'll countersue on behalf of Carrie White for what your daughter did.
It's like, damn
and
it.
then the lawyer was like, fuck.
It's like,
and
you better drop down and give her 10, sweetheart.
But they kind of cut that part out, I guess, because it doesn't really go anywhere.
Right.
Not really. We get her character without that.
Yeah, she's a little...
Because we all
shit.
know this girl.
Yes, we do. But the next thing we see is detention, and Miss Collins is not letting anyone slide as she coaches their workout. Norma is especially phoning it in and annoying the shit out of her. But I really like the playful music that we get
I liked it too.
during their workout.
And there's more diopter shots with her in the
yes,
foreground and them in
there
the
is.
background. Also, I thought some of the shots were kind of like Full Metal Jacket before Full Metal Jacket. I loved them. I love this section a lot.
But we cut to the library as Carrie is flipping through a card catalog, perusing titles that involve miracles and the power of the mind. And so it's kind of like, ooh, she's
getting
like,
educated.
I got something.
Is this the first find out at the library in a horror scene? Because they overdo it now.
It is. We just talked about it in Urban Legend.
Exactly. Let's go to the library.
But back at detention, Miss Collins has her back turned to the class, like you said, with the diopter, right?
Yeah.
Shot. And she's leading them in running in place. Chris tells Sue that Miss Collins can't get away with this, and Sue's like, just let it go.
Yeah. They're over it. They're like, we want to go to prom.
Yeah. Chris is like hell I will. And she starts toward Miss Collins, and the rest of the girls stop running, and they're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
When she hears them stop, she turns to see Chris and is like, there's still 10 minutes left. And there's only 10 minutes left.
You've been doing it for 40
Shut
minutes.
up, yeah.
Suck it up, dude. But she's like, there's 10 minutes left. And Chris goes, you can shove him up your ass.
Yeah, she stops.
And
That's it.
she slaps the shit out of Chris.
Interestingly, I saw on that Acting Carrie documentary, Betty Buckley said that they shot that slap at least 30 times. And Brian De Palma said he wanted her to actually slap her every time, and she did.
Did did he not like her?
It was the 70s.
Wait, what's funny though is didn't they end up getting married?
Yeah, Nancy Allen and Brian De Palma.
Ended up,
What the fuck?
I don't, the Stockholm syndrome.
Very strange, but
everyone else is mortified. And Chris calls Miss Collins a bitch, and Miss Collins is like, I'm going to knock you down.
yeah, she's not playing.
I fell in love with the teacher at this point.
Exactly.
I was like, good for you.
She
fucking
is not
punch her
having
in the
it.
nose.
It's like, I'm about to lose my job today.
But Chris pleads at everyone's support. She says she can't get away with it if we all stick together. She looks for support from Norma, and Norma's like,
Yeah.
It's like, I already got my dress.
Yeah, no shit.
Helen literally starts jogging again. She's like, I'm not. But she asks for Sue, and Sue's like, just shut up. Like, let this go.
Well, damn, 10 minutes.
Literally 10 minutes. But as she storms away, Chris tells Miss Collins that this isn't over by a long shot. And Miss Collins calls after her, reminding her that she's out of the prom.
Yeah, she's like, you got no commitment, Vinegar. You're finished. She's done.
She's out. But back at the library, Carrie looks through a book, The Secret Science Behind Miracles. She reads the definition for telekinesis, the ability to move or cause changes in objects by force of the mind. And she takes that book with her.
She's like, this seems relevant.
This is what's happening. The next thing we see is the track, and Tommy is running with the rest of the class, but breaks off when he sees Sue waiting for him, like on the sidelines.
Right.
He happily tells her that the coach told him he made nationals, and Sue's like, that's great, but we need to talk about that.
What they need to talk about is you got to stop breathing in my goddamn face.
But as they walk, she asked him if she asked him to do something, would he do it? And he says yes. And so she comes right out and tells him, I want you to take Carrie White to the prom. Now, we cut to a car.
Right.
And we see Chris brushing her hair and putting on makeup and listening to Heat Wave.
Very good.
Driving is her boyfriend, Billy Nolan, played by John Travolta.
Yeah.
I was like...
The man, the myth, the chin. Fucking Travolta.
When I was watching this, preparing, I thought of you. I was like, he's
I
going to
love
laugh when
that
the
dude,
scene
man.
starts.
I think my thing, he plays such a small role in this movie.
does.
He plays a large role, if you understand.
Right, but visually.
Yeah. And he gets double billing with Sissy Spacek.
Because this was Welcome Back Kotter time.
Not
so
fair.
He was probably the biggest name in the movie.
I like Betty Buckley.
But Billy is on top of the world. He's dancing to the music. He looks down at Chris's boobs, and he is just all smiles.
Oh, and his hair.
Oh,
His hair.
Yeah.
Talking about hair.
Yeah.
His friend Freddie, played by Michael Talbot, pulls up in the car next to him and asks him to hang out. But he looks at Chris's boobs again. And he's like, nah, not tonight.
He's like, hey, Billy, you want to meet us at Jack Rabbit Slim's?
But he does ask for one of their beers, and they toss it to him before driving off. And he's like, all right.
He's living his best life.
Oh,
He
yeah.
is.
Oh, yeah.
But he drinks the beer until a cop car pulls up beside him, and he panics and throws the beer into the floor of the car, prompting Chris to call him a stupid shit.
He couldn't have been drinking that beer sloppier.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Like, jeez, man.
But the cop is literally shining a flashlight into their car, and Billy is smiling like he's posing for pictures.
Yeah.
But once they drive past, he tells Chris not to call him that.
Yeah.
You stupid shit.
It's not nice.
No. But she tells him to just look at what he did, and he does and laughs. She calls him a stupid shit again, and he backhands her, saying he told her not to call him that. Now, Brian De Palma wanted him to actually slap her as well, but he refused to.
What?
And that's why if you're watching, sound does not match the little tap that he gives her.
And good on you.
Good on you,
No,
yeah.
That's what I
He's
was like,
like,
what
now
the
slap
fuck's
the shit out of
happening?
her.
He's like, no, man.
Yeah.
But he nearly wrecks, and she's even more annoyed and calls him a dumb shit again. He calls her a fuck before driving over every lane of traffic.
Yeah.
Now, if only they would have crashed right there.
Yeah, that would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the Snell house, Sue does her homework as Tommy watches TV. Finally, he turns to her and is like, I'll do it.
She was probably ignoring him until he said yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's a big ask.
That's a huge ask. That's their senior prom.
Because now she can't go.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a big deal. And the fact that she's willing to give that up says a lot about her.
How guilty she felt.
Yeah.
I feel like she was the only one that felt guilty.
Right.
Yeah.
But back in Billy's car, finally at their destination, Billy tries to get out and Chris pulls him back, telling him not to be in such a hurry. He's like, I am in a hurry to get away from you. Because she's a pain right in the ass.
Right in it.
But she tells him he doesn't mean that and starts sucking his finger. He calls her crazy, but is immediately won over.
Yeah.
This scene, the pacing, I'm like, what is even...
It's so weird.
Yeah.
This is one of the few points that I had a little gripe with.
But they start to make out and she pushes him off of her. He laughs and then they start again and she pushes him off again. He's like, what's wrong? And she's like, just wait a minute, and starts brushing her hair and calls him ignorant. Okay.
Yeah.
He tries again and she says no, calling him a dumb shit, and he slaps her again. I thought I told you never to call me that. He says now he knows she's truly fucked up.
He's like
I'm
that's it. Going Vinnie Barbarino over there.
But she sweetly calls his name and kisses him again before asking him to do something as she unbuttons his shirt. It's something important. She heads downtown, continuing to call his name, which I don't know how she's still saying his name.
I was going to say, not to be coarse, but my understanding.
But she says, I hate Carrie White. And he goes, who? Back at the library, Carrie is looking through another book when Tommy Ross approaches her. He asks how she is, and she says she's fine, but she won't even look up at him. He awkwardly asks her if she would like to go to the prom with him if she doesn't have a date, and she runs away.
Yeah, she's out of there. It's funny to me because he cans the small talk real fast.
Yeah.
She says she likes to sew, or she's reading about sewing, and he's like, sewing, huh? So, would you like to go to the prom with me?
Speaking of sewing, outside, Miss Collins sees Carrie sitting alone and sits down next to her. She asks why she's so upset, and after telling Carrie that she can trust her, Carrie reluctantly says that she was invited to the prom. Miss Collins laughs and seems thrilled for her, asking what's the problem then? Carrie tells her that it's Tommy Ross that asked her, and Miss Collins doesn't even falter. She says that's even better. He's cute. Carrie says that she knows who he hangs around with, and they're just trying to trick her, which is so fucking sad.
Very sad.
But Miss Collins tells her maybe not. Maybe he really meant it, and Carrie might just have a terrific time if she went. She tells her that she has a bad attitude about herself, and she brings Carrie inside and has her look at herself in the mirror. She pulls Carrie's hair back and says that she's such a pretty girl. She has beautiful eyes and lips and cheekbones. She could try some mascara and some lipstick, and that she has beautiful hair. She could put a little curl in it or wear it up. Carrie finally, like, truly smiles.
Right.
I feel like we have not seen her happy this entire movie.
This to me is even sadder because this is what, like, instead of being all Ned Flanders on steroids, this is what her mom should be doing.
Doing, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, but instead we get what we get.
Yeah.
And this just, again, endeared me to Miss Collins even more.
100%. Because Carrie's smiling and then the camera kind of pans over to Miss Collins and she's smiling too, but right before the scene cuts, her face looks super worried.
Right.
Like she's like, fuck.
What if she's right?
Yeah. And I really like, because in the moment when she's like, who are you going to the prom with? And she's asking the girls, it's like, kind of, why are you asking that? But now we know, she knows that Tommy was going to sue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Because we saw her ask.
yes.
Yeah.
And you know, that doesn't sound right. You know that. But instead of being like, oh yeah, just stay away from them, she tries to build up Carrie's self-esteem. And it's like, it's just such a sweet moment.
Right.
There are a few scenes in this film that might genuinely bring a tear to your eye
Yeah.
because of how sweet they are.
And this is one of them.
And that's one of them.
But the next thing we see is Miss Collins sitting in the office with both Sue and Tommy. And I love that she did this.
Yeah, immediately.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, fuck, they probably are going to trick her again. Well, I got
Yeah, I have my own life to worry
stuff
about.
I got a whistle to clean. I don't know.
I was never a gym teacher.
But Sue confesses that she asked Tommy to ask Carrie to the prom because it would be a nice thing for Carrie to be able to finally join in. Norma comes in to deliver something to Miss Collins, and Miss Collins asks Sue if she's prepared to stay home on prom night because she knows she can't go without a date. The whole time Norma is just standing there.
That's a problem.
Majorly fucking eavesdropping until Miss Collins is like, okay.
Yeah.
But like, I thought it was odd. Is it normal that you can't go to prom without a date? Because
I don't know.
My prom wasn't like that.
No,
I
me
didn't
neither.
go to prom, so I don't know.
I went to prom, but I had a date.
I mean, I did too, but
So, I mean, I can't say they weren't like, oh, hold on.
I felt
Me just trying to stroll in there like, whoa, get the fuck out of here.
I don't
You know the rules. You're a loser.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, me neither. Maybe it's just in Maine.
But after Norma leaves, Miss Collins turns her attention on Tommy, and Tommy tells her that this is really just between him and Sue. And Miss Collins is like, okay, we can talk about it here, or we can go talk about it in the principal's office. Tommy says it's over anyway because Carrie said no. And Sue is like, we'll keep trying. And Miss Collins is like, you leave Carrie alone. It's like, poor Tommy, man. Finally, Sue takes a stand and says Miss Collins has no authority to tell them who they can go to the prom with. And she's
not
right.
wrong.
Yeah. She says they're not trying to hurt Carrie. They're trying to help her. Miss Collins asks Tommy if he's worried about looking ridiculous showing up with Carrie. And Sue's like, we don't care how we look.
Yeah, why
Tommy's
are you
like-
answering for him?
We care a lot.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, that's a good joke. I mean, not joke. What I said was a good joke. That was a good question.
No, yeah.
Yeah. Tommy didn't look like
Yeah,
he
no.
agreed.
No.
But Miss Collins just sighs. The next thing we see is Tommy pulling up to Carrie's house and knocking on the door. Carrie opens the door and looks terrified to see him. She doesn't even open the screen door.
Yeah.
No.
She says that her mom is asleep and asks what he wants. Again, he immediately brings up the prom.
One track mind.
And she says that she already told him no.
This is another scene. I know we talked about it off mic. There's a lot of haze
Yeah.
in the cinematography.
Yeah.
Part of me was like, is this intentional or did you need to clean the lens? Or-
Yeah.
But this is another one.
Yeah, I had talked to your sister about it when we were watching it, and I was like, I don't
know.
No.
He goes, is this just old?
Like, it's the 70s, man. I don't know.
Everything was hazy in the 70s.
Yeah, I wasn't alive, so I don't know.
right.
But she asks him why he's doing this, and he says he doesn't do anything that he doesn't want to. Margaret calls to Carrie from inside, and she's like, you need to go.
Yeah.
Tommy says he's not going anywhere until she says yes. And she keeps saying, I can't. And he's like, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. She asks why this is so important to him, and he says it's because she liked his poem. She finally agrees to go and immediately goes inside and closes the door.
Yeah.
So I know that the point of this is to do something nice for Carrie
Yeah.
after fucking with her,
Yeah.
right? But the end game of this thing, what if Carrie falls in love with Tommy? You know what I mean? The key to my heart is looking at me. And he's taking her to prom.
That's marriage.
Like at least 10 times more. So I'm just, it's concerning. It's concerning.
But the next thing we see is Billy, Chris, Freddie, and another one of Billy's lackeys walking through the rain and climbing over a mural of pigs into a pig farm, I guess.
I mean, you get what you...
Yeah. Freddie seems all about killing a pig until it's time to, and then he gives the mallet to Billy. He's like, I don't think I can do this.
Never mind.
Billy jumps into the pen and begins bludgeoning a pig. We don't see the actual carnage, but each time he strikes, Chris is like, do it.
It's a lot. And
She's horrifying.
Yeah.
I genuinely forget every time I watch this that I know I said at the top that I remember everything, but
You lied.
yeah, I did, because I genuinely forget that they murk a pig.
No, literally.
I was like, for some reason in my head, I'm like, well, where do they get the pig's blood? Do they just go to the market?
from the
or-
blood aisle at Walmart.
Yeah, I mean,
Where do you get your blood?
simply blood.
Well, in Mr. Travolta's defense, men do a lot of crazy shit for women. So
Fair.
I mean, all right. So the next scene, we're back at the White House. And lightning from the storm illuminates a wall covered by a huge image of the Last Supper.
No pun intended, but this seems in poor taste. Am I wrong?
No, but Carrie and Margaret sit at the dining table in front of it, eating by candlelight for some reason. Margaret points out that Carrie isn't eating her dessert, and when Carrie explains that it gives her pimples, Margaret's like, pimples are the Lord's way of chastising.
Well, then God hates me because holy shit.
But Carrie drops the bombshell that she's been invited to the prom, and lightning strikes at that moment.
It's perfect timing. She's like, prom?
Margaret immediately blames Miss Collins for some reason, and Carrie tries to explain. She says she's not like Margaret. She's weird, but all right. She wants to try to get along with people and be a whole person so everyone stops thinking bad about her, which, like, if your kid told you that,
You better feel bad.
well, let me tell you what Margaret's response was. Mm-hmm. She throws her tea into Carrie's face.
Now, that's not where I would go.
But as she throws it into her face, it extinguishes the candles between them,
It's
leaving the
so-
room completely dark.
So cool.
It's great.
But again, the same exact thing I said earlier with the book. She
just keeps going.
Keeps talking because this is not abnormal behavior from Margaret.
She explains that Tommy is a nice boy and he'll come and meet her before they go. And Margaret just keeps yelling, no, no, no. When Carrie says that she's already accepted, Margaret stands and tells her to go to her closet. Carrie says no, which from what we've witnessed is not typical.
Yeah.
No.
Margaret begins to laugh. It's the boys, she says. After the blood comes the boys, sniffing like dogs. Carrie puts her hands over her ears and Margaret grabs her, speaking directly into her face. She tells Carrie to tell Tommy that she's not going or they're going to move away.
What? You were itching for that $10. How are you gonna? Also, she was like, that smell. I was like, don't be coarse.
Don't do that.
Yeah, come on.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
She starts to walk away, but Carrie grabs onto her, continuing to beg as she follows behind her. She yells at Margaret, and suddenly every window in the house slams shut. Why the windows were open during the storm, I don't know. But now they're not. Now they're
That's
not.
a great point. I never even caught that.
They're not open anymore. Margaret stops ranting and turns to look at Carrie. Carrie quietly tells her that she's going to the prom and things are going to change around here. Margaret calls her daughter a witch because she has Satan's power. Carrie says it's not from Satan, it's just her. If she concentrates, she can move things, and she's not the only one. Other people can too.
We call it shine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
In the book, it's called TK. It's telekinesis, and like they kind of it's spliced in with like news stories and like characters in the book go on to write books, and it's excerpts from their books, but they talk about like the genetics and how it comes from your mother's side and how probably Margaret's mother had it. Yeah.
See, and as I said on Talk Mortem, I do start a lot of novels.
You do. And you started
And I started this one. So I did catch on to that. I thought that was an interesting way to tell it.
Uh-huh.
The other thing, though, is how does she know that it's Satan's power?
Everything's Satan's power.
But
Well,
Jesus did a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard. You know?
if Carrie's a witch, then Carrie's a good witch.
Yeah.
Yes.
She's a bad witch.
Yes.
And we all want to throw water in our kids' face.
But you don't do it.
Yeah, you don't. Like, we've talked about that before. Like, the kids are fucking, they'll push every button you have.
He'll be like, what do you think would happen if I just threw this cup of water?
Is this the call of the void?
But you don't do it.
You don't
just
do it.
Don't.
And Carrie certainly didn't deserve
Yeah,
it.
no. Because you shouldn't do that shit to
No.
your kids.
Never. Even when they
you
do
just
deserve
think
it.
about it.
You just fantasize.
Yeah.
But Margaret says the devil is using her just like it used her father and carried him away. And Carrie laughs. She's like, the devil didn't carry him away.
No.
He left with another woman and everyone knows it. It's like, Carrie's not fucking
No,
playing
and
anymore.
I'm glad because it's like, no, bitch, you sent him
Seriously.
away.
She's like, oh, I didn't know the devil looked like Shirley from the Five and Dime.
That's
Crazy.
But Margaret tells her to never use this power. And Carrie just says she's going to the prom and she's done talking about it.
And the scene just ends.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Good.
it's
She's
abrupt.
done talking about it.
The editor's like, yes, ma'am.
So at the school, still at night, nobody's there. Billy stands on a ladder pouring the pig's blood into a bucket that he has balanced on the rafters. Below, Chris holds a flashlight for him, calling him a stupid shit when blood drips below. When Chris says she wants to go home, Billy tells her to keep her tits on and he'll let her be the one to pull the rope. And she's like, yeah.
Fair trade.
It's funny watching an interview with Nancy Allen. She said that she didn't realize until she saw the movie that her and John Travolta were the villains. She thought they were the comedic relief. And watching their interactions, they are pretty funny together.
Yeah, I feel like they actually, first of all, they have great chemistry.
They really do.
Second of all, they really are the bulk of the laughs I got out of the film.
That's
even
true.
though I hate them.
No, they're horrible. But yeah, that made me laugh that she's like, man, we're funny as fuck.
And then she sees it. She's like, what the fuck?
I'm awful. Back at the White House, Margaret prays, rocking back and forth on her knees and whispering, and Carrie's just altering her dress. She doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
The next day at school, Chris stands in the background and watches as Freddie tells a guy that I guess is in charge of the prom committee or something.
Yeah.
He says that he wants to help out now. And the guy's like, well, we could have used you before. And he's like, well, I want to help now. In fact, I want to be the one who takes the ballots for prom king and queen.
He's like, yeah, I love Grimby.
Reluctantly, the guy's like, okay, if you can be there at 6:30. And Freddie's like, nah, I'll see you at 8. And the guy's still like, all right.
Yeah.
But Chris is just like, yes, yes, in the back. It's so fucking weird.
Next, we see a beauty parlor and Norma and Helen sit getting their hair and nails done. I never noticed until watching it this time that Norma's hat is on top of the hairdryer.
That's fantastic.
So fucking funny.
That is great.
But Norma tells Helen that Tommy Ross is taking Carrie White to the prom and they both cackle. We hear them continue to laugh and make fun of her as we see Carrie walk into a drugstore. Really quick about the character of Helen, they didn't write any lines for her. And so anything that she says is something that Edie McClurg had to make up.
That's crazy.
I don't know why. And really she just says like, what? Or something.
Not great at improv.
No. But back at the school as they decorate for prom, and I don't understand how they were at the beauty parlor a minute ago, but now they're at the school because Norma's there with her hat on and her hair's not done. So I don't know if those scenes should have been switched.
Switched, yeah.
But as they decorate for the prom, a girl asks Sue if it's true that Tommy is taking Carrie. Sue confirms that it is and says that she asked him to because she felt like they owed it to Carrie. Below them, Chris and Norma look up at Sue and whisper to each other. Norma mentions that Chris won't be at the prom, but Chris is like, no, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
She's like, so I will see you at the prom? Or like, what? How the fuck?
Norma says that if Chris is planning something, she wants to be let in on it. Chris says she'll tell Norma later, but whispers in her ear when Norma asks for a hint. Next, what I can only describe as jive music plays as Tommy walks down the street with his friends into a tuxedo shop.
Yeah.
It's funky as shit, and I'm not mad at it.
No. At that drugstore, Carrie is trying on lipstick as a woman in the background is just staring at her.
Yeah.
It's like so people in town, too. Great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. At that tuxedo shop, though, one of Tommy's friends is trying to convince the other one to get himself a suit for prom. And when the guy's like, I only have $10, his friend's like, $10, you can rent yourself a nice suit. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you about the minimum wage and inflation.
Oh my God. But I feel like it's a really cute scene. And his short friend, I found very funny. I don't know why.
They sped it up at a point. I don't understand that. This whole scene, though, reminded me of the camel tail scene in Superbad.
Oh.
I wonder if that was a little homage, but I was like, I understand you need some levity before what we're about to see.
Yes.
Right.
But you're like, what is this?
No, yeah.
But they try on tuxes and eventually convince their friend, and the friend settles on a tuxedo t-shirt. He's very happy.
This is as far as I'm going.
Yeah. Back at the White House, Carrie puts on mascara in her cracked mirror next to a picture of Tommy Ross tacked up on the wall.
Where'd she get that?
I think it was like a newspaper. I mean, he made nationals for track.
All right.
But she did just like Miss Collins said, and she added a little curl to her hair. And I was like, oh.
Just sad.
Margaret comes in saying she might have known her dress would be red. And Carrie's like, it's pink. In the book, it is red. Mm-hmm. And they changed it because I guess the pale pink looked better on Sissy Spacek.
Right.
And Piper Laurie fought for that line to be kept in because in Margaret's eyes, it is red.
Right.
Like it's, to us, it's pale pink. To her,
She
it's
sees,
red. Yeah.
Which again, she knows this character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she killed it. But she tries showing off the corsage that Tommy got her, and we zoom in from the corsage to Carrie's cleavage as Margaret remarks that she can see her dirty pillows. And me and my friend Amy used to say this to each other all the time.
My thing about that is like, it just made me laugh that the camera's like zooming in.
It did.
It's like, we know what she's talking about.
I didn't. Oh, dirty
Really?
pillows.
Like, what the fuck is
does
that?
You need to do laundry or?
Yeah.
But that's straight from the book as well. But Carrie corrects her, saying they're called breasts and every woman has them. Carrie goes back to putting on lipstick, and Margaret tells her that they can just burn that dress and pray for forgiveness.
A little extreme.
Carrie says no. She rushes to the window when she hears a car, but it's not Tommy. Margaret immediately tells her that Tommy isn't coming. Carrie asks her to stop because she's already nervous, but Margaret keeps saying it. When Carrie is unfazed, Margaret starts to hit herself and pull her hair.
She's like, Mama, stop hurting yourself.
She's a
like,
fucking fruitcake, man.
Is this normal? Like, I mean, not normal, but
No,
like,
yeah.
normal
you.
for her. Everybody has their own normal, I guess.
Yeah,
But
apparently. But she tells Carrie that Tommy's going to laugh at her. They're all going to laugh at her. She says that she'll just tell Tommy she's sick. She's like, it'll be fine.
formulating a plan.
Yeah. Carrie yells at her to stop and be quiet. And Margaret looks like she is pushed back onto Carrie's bed.
See, so she thinks what she's doing is actually saving Carrie from whatever it is. And instead, she's really just ruining
Her
the
life.
best thing that ever happened to her.
Yeah.
And that's why she's fucking laying on the bed like a stuffed animal.
She hears another car outside, and this time it is Tommy. Margaret gets up, and Carrie yells at her to sit down, and Margaret is pushed back onto the bed again. Carrie tells her to sit there and be quiet until she's gone. And on her way out, she says she'll be home early and that she loves her.
Carrie's still in there. It's not,
Yeah.
you know? She's not like, you say you fucking sit there. No.
Not a heel turn.
It's not.
But as she leaves, Margaret mutters, "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live."
I was like, oh, shit.
God damn.
Great.
Tommy and Carrie pull up to the prom, and Carrie asks him to wait before they go inside. He reassures her that his friends are good people and she has nothing to be nervous about, which I'm like, with her experience, no, they're not good people.
No, I know your friends.
Yeah. But I guess it kind of makes her feel better, and she does get out of the car.
Well, here's my question. I see Carrie open the door a little bit and then shut it. I didn't know if that was a goof, or was that Sissy Spacek, or was that Carrie trying to relish this moment of having Tommy open the door for her?
Oh, I would say yes.
Because one is kind of funny, the other is really sad.
Right.
Very sad. But inside the prom is bumping.
Oh, yeah.
The celestial theme is everything. The band is doing their thing, and everyone is dancing their ass off. Sue's friend walks with Carrie as she and Tommy enter, but they pass Norma on the dance floor, who just busts out laughing at the mere sight of Carrie. Sue's friend asks where Carrie got her dress and is astonished to learn that she made it. More people see that Carrie is here, and they just react in disbelief.
Right.
Sue, I got to give her a shout out because she is genuinely so selfless to give up her prom.
Yeah.
Right.
She's a teenager. This is everything.
This is everything.
And she did that for Carrie.
Yep. But Carrie admits that she's nervous, and Sue's friend tells her that everything will be okay and she can just sit with them. At the Snell house, Sue finds out that it's 8:00 while she's eating with her family and is like, all right, I'm bye, and leaves.
She left a whole ass piece of fucking pie right there.
She did. She's like, please
Don't
put
do
that in the fridge.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Dude, I'm not done with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
If I see one more extra fork, Mark.
Back at the prom, a slow song starts to play, and Tommy asks Carrie to dance. She asks if they can just sit there, and Tommy says, yeah, we can do whatever you want. Miss Collins comes over and greets Carrie and tells her that she looks beautiful. Tommy is like, I'll go get us some punch, and leaves. Miss Collins tells Carrie about the mishaps of her own prom, making her laugh, but she tells her that the night was still magical. And in that documentary, I saw that Brian De Palma was like, come up with the funny prom story.
Just on the spot.
And Betty
Oh,
Buckley
really?
was like, I got blistered. Like,
Yeah. He was 6'7".
well, it's like, it was a cute story.
It worked.
But she asks if it's magical for Carrie, and Carrie admits that it's like being on Mars. Miss Collins tells her that she'll never forget it. Carrie thanks her and hugs her. Tommy comes back to the table, and Miss Collins tells them both to have a lovely time and leaves. Tommy sits down and is like, I better not catch you hugging any guys like that.
At this moment, watching it this time, in my head, I'm like, maybe everything will work out.
I know.
There's an
Every
alternate,
time.
there's an alternate film in my head where prom is great. She emancipates herself from her mom.
Yes.
Lives with Miss Collins. Goes to college. Like
It's like Matilda.
exactly. Yeah, it's fantastic, and sadly,
Yeah, not this time. But he asks her if she really has to be home so early, and she says that she does because she promised. He tells her that some of his friends are going somewhere after prom, and she's like, oh, no, you can go ahead and go. And he's like, no, I was going to ask if you wanted to go. And she says, yeah, she's never been there before. It's like
he's trying to give her the greatest evening
experience. Yeah.
He says the Beehive, which I don't know what the
I don't
fuck
know what that is.
but
I guess maybe
It's a malt
a
shop.
beehive. Right?
it's a bee sanctuary.
Really popular with the kids.
They got the best honey.
But he asks her to dance again, and she admits that she doesn't know how. He tells her that she can do it, and they go out onto the dance floor. They dance as I Never Dreamed Someone Like You Could Love Someone Like Me plays.
It's perfect. I mean,
it's so on the nose.
the lyrics say something like, there must be a God because lovers and all this. And you're like, this is probably what she's thinking.
Yeah.
This is her inner monologue put to sappy music.
Yes. When she stumbles, though, she apologizes and says she can't do anything. She can't even dance. But Tommy tells her it's okay, and he kisses her, which I don't think was part of the arrangement
Now,
with
who
Sue.
told you to do that?
No, Sue's like, what are you doing, dude?
I said dance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She asks why they're there together, and he tells her she's there because he asked her, and he asked her because he wanted to, and he wanted to because she liked his poem. But he didn't even actually write that poem. Somebody else did.
She's like,
But the important thing is that they're here together and he likes it. They smile at each other and the camera circles around them and they continue dancing and laughing together.
So something I saw on the Visualizing Carrie documentary, they have the camera on a circular dolly track and they're just spinning around them while they're spinning in the opposite direction.
It looks...
And with all the colors of the lights,
Yeah.
it's an amazing
I
visual.
feel like it's such a... Like you said, like that's how she feels right
Exactly.
now. Like it's very like magical looking
Right.
almost.
But at the same time, it's disorienting.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
You know, so it's literally positive and negative what she's feeling.
Yeah.
I was just dizzy.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
I also read that they had to come up with their own lines for this part.
Oh, wow.
And so every time that the camera came to them, they had to say something. And if you notice, that happens every time.
Yeah.
She's like, so why are, and then he'll answer when he's around, then she'll ask something when she's around. It's very
Wow. But
Like,
it
that's
works.
crazy,
It works
yeah.
so perfectly.
fantastic. Just excellent filmmaking.
Yes. Outside, Sue excitedly shows up and sneaks in kind of the back way to the prom. Back inside, the prom coordinator announces that it's time to vote for king and queen. Carrie and Tommy's names are at the bottom of the ballot. He asks if she wants to decline and makes it clear that he doesn't want to. He says if they win, it's just a dance and a picture in the yearbook. They're setting the stage for king and queen, and Carrie says that it's beautiful, but he tells her she's beautiful. Again, I don't think Sue was...
No.
One of the easiest and
Oh,
best
yeah.
lines to use. That's
You're
all. Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Carrie asks who they should vote for. This is his crowd. She doesn't even really have a crowd. And he tells her to the devil with false modesty and convinces her to vote for themselves.
And she's like, the devil.
Yeah.
He's like, nah. She doesn't do that. But I thought it was very interesting
That he would
considering
use that, yeah.
exactly.
But she does vote for them, and the camera zooms way in on the vote. Back at the White House, though, Margaret is pacing around the kitchen before grabbing a carrot and mechanically chopping it on the cutting board, even continuing to chop when the carrot falls out of the way.
It's got to be a sin to waste a perfectly good carrot like that. Right?
Atone, Margaret.
Exactly. Get in the closet.
Back at the prom, Chris and Billy peek out from their hiding place, which is just underneath the stage.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
really covert.
No.
They're right fucking there.
Yeah.
Anybody could be like, is that fucking
Yeah.
Chris and Billy?
Well, Billy's like, that.
People under there?
Billy's like, that Carrie White is cute or something.
Yeah. Like,
Do you know why you're here?
yeah, she's like, you dumb shit or whatever.
But he says that he thought Chris said that Carrie and Tommy were going to win, and Chris said they will win. She called in a few favors. We cut to Norma and Freddie collecting all the ballots. Once gathered, they kiss and slyly drop the stack, and Norma kicks it behind a curtain and takes out a hidden stack of ballots. Norma hands them off to a table of teachers, one of which is Miss Collins, and walks away, giving the okay signal to Chris and Billy still hiding under the stage.
It's Ocean's 11?
Sue comes from behind the stage to peek in at the prom. From the corner that she peers over, behind the lights, we see a rope connecting to the bucket of pig's blood still balanced on top of the rafters. They announce the winners of Prom King and Queen, Tommy Ross and Carrie White, but we're still peering over the prom from the bucket of blood.
Something very interesting about this, from the moment when Norma takes the ballot off of their table through to when they announce the winners, it's one shot.
Oh, man.
And it took 35 takes to do because it's so intricate.
Well, no, yeah.
And they follow Norma all the way. They get the shot of the ballots being kicked, the ballots being taken.
Okay signal.
Sue coming in over the rafters into the bucket of blood, passed to Carrie and Tommy at the table, the announcement. It is unbelievable that they did this in one shot.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I'm a sucker for long takes.
Oh, absolutely.
And so typically a long take is just people doing, a long scene, but this is the camera.
Yeah, no, it's a lot.
So much that went into it. Very impressive technically.
Almost as good as the Charlie Work episode is that?
Almost.
At their table, Carrie is shocked and smiling. Tommy helps her to her feet in slow motion and they walk up to the stage. Carrie looks beyond happy. Everyone applauds. Chris watches as Carrie and Tommy walk right over them to get onto the stage. Sue watches from behind the stage, just as happy as Tommy and Carrie are.
These happy shots are really good, but it makes you sad because you want it to stay that way.
It hurts.
But
it hurts.
Like, oh, man.
No joke, man. Seriously.
Because she's really happy and everything, the music and everything's all fucking, you know what I mean? All fantasy. And it's like, hell yeah. And it's like, this
we know.
Yeah. Even if you haven't seen this movie, you know.
Yeah. It's honestly dreamlike.
Yeah.
It is.
And then you get those alternating shots with the nightmare that's to come.
Yeah.
And it's just, again, excellent. Even if it's fucking tragic as hell.
Yeah. But Carrie is given flowers and a crown, and Chris begins to jerk the rope connected to the bucket. The rope moves right next to Sue, and she kind of notices but looks back at Carrie and Tommy. We pan over the crowd, specifically at Miss Collins, who is clearly overcome with emotion for Carrie. On stage, tears of joy are running down Carrie's face, and she smiles as her picture is taken. Chris begins jerking the rope again and again, and Sue notices. This time, she tracks the rope to the bucket that's positioned right above where Carrie stands. She comes out from behind the stage to get a better look at it, and Miss Collins is like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Tommy kisses Carrie, and the crowd goes crazy as Sue tracks the rope back down and sees the silhouette of Chris holding it underneath the stage.
Just found out. She's like, fuck.
Yeah. No, this is about to get real bad real fast.
The tension of these shots.
Yes.
No, yeah.
The lighting, the music.
Yeah.
And then when you see the silhouettes, it's just, the buildup is just
Yes.
incredible.
Sue runs to the stage stairs and pulls the decorations aside to see Chris and Billy, of course, arguing. As Chris slaps Billy, Miss Collins grabs Sue and pulls her away from the stage. We hear nothing but the music, but you can tell that Sue is clearly trying to explain what's going on. Tommy and Carrie watch as Miss Collins pulls Sue away, but Tommy's face is like, aw, Sue.
Yeah, it's like, shouldn't you be like, hey, that's my girlfriend. What's wrong?
Or like, something's wrong.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
It's very odd, but
I hope she didn't see me macking on Carrie all night.
But just as Miss Collins tosses Sue out of the prom and slams the door, Chris pulls the rope. We get one last shot of Carrie smiling before the blood comes down. Her face transforms into total surprise and shock. Tommy looks confused. Everyone stops applauding, and all we can hear is the sound of the blood dripping and the bucket hitting the rafters.
I thought that was such a great choice.
Yes.
The sound design, rather than hear their shock, rather than, they're like, look, this is frozen in time. You're Carrie right now.
Yeah, this is all you hear. This is all that matters.
She just made that dress.
Yeah,
She
she did. She did a great job, too. But the entire crowd looks shocked and horrified, especially Miss Collins, until Norma, of course, looks around and then bursts into laughter. We can't hear it, but we don't need to.
Yeah.
It's the most jovial laughter I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah. No, it's like she's elated.
She
like
even elbows the dude
she's
next
like,
to her.
You see this shit? Tommy looks up at the bucket and begins to angrily yell. Again, we can't hear him, but you can tell he's like, what the hell?
Fuck? Yeah.
As he reaches for Carrie to comfort her, the bucket falls from the rafters, hitting Tommy in the head.
So here's my question. Does this kill him?
Yes, he's dead.
Oh, that's too much.
What's
Stop.
the bucket made of?
Yeah, stop.
I don't know, but even in the book, they're like, it's a mercy that was it for him. He doesn't have to deal with anything else that happens.
Hit him just right?
Yeah.
He's dead.
Does he have that fontanelle, like baby thing? Did it never heal?
Tommy Ross is a newborn. He grabs at Carrie before falling to the ground, but yeah, he's done.
Wow.
Norma continues to laugh, and we see that her laughter is spreading like a disease to others in the crowd. Everything else is still silent, but we hear Margaret White's voice saying over and over, they're all gonna laugh at you. We see Carrie, her hair flat to her face with the blood, completely drenched now. She grabs her head and stares out into the crowd. We see like kaleidoscope vision of everyone in the crowd laughing. Along with the steady current of Margaret's, they're all gonna laugh at you. We hear the girls chanting, plug it up, plug it up. We hear the principal saying, we're sorry, Cassie. And we hear Miss Collins, trust me, Carrie, you can trust me. It's like it's all here.
Yeah.
Like she's just breaking. My only question though, I don't think Miss Collins was really laughing at her.
I don't think
So it makes me wonder who was actually laughing.
I don't think she was. I doubt the principal was.
Yeah.
I think the kids probably were.
Yeah.
Maybe not even all of them.
I wouldn't think all of them.
I think this is just her mind.
Right.
they're all against me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then especially with the shit her mother fed her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, it's got to be all of them.
Yeah. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
But it makes me sad that Miss Collins telling her she can trust her is one of the things she hears, because that was genuine.
Yeah, she could
Right.
trust her.
It makes me sad.
Very.
Chris and Billy run from beneath the stage, laughing their asses off.
The other thing about them running away is that it's silent.
Yeah.
And so that made me wonder even more, because you hear them moving through and like laughing and stuff, but you don't hear the laughter coming from the prom.
You're right.
So
Yeah. With wide eyes, Carrie looks back at the crowd, no longer horrified. We get a split screen with Carrie on one side and Chris and Billy running out the door on the other. Carrie looks over at them and the door slams, but they like barely made it out. We see the other doors in the building on the left side, and Carrie looks in their directions on the right side of the screen, and all those doors slam shut too. I hope that made sense the way I said it.
It does.
I said it really weird. Okay.
I thought that was such a great choice to split the screen.
Right.
Yes. I read that most of this scene was filmed that way, but they decided just to use a little bit here.
Right.
Brian De Palma said some of this is fucking stupid, because he said that he's like this doesn't need to be split, and then he picked the clearly best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But Carrie's half of the screen slides to the other side, and when she looks up at the lights, they change to red.
So I just have a couple things here. One, she's bathing them in red.
Yes.
Much like they just did to her.
Yes.
Which is fantastic, poetic, and this is kind of poetic justice. But the other thing is that I saw on AMC's Backstory, Brian De Palma said that the producer asked him on set, because this whole scene took 2 weeks to film.
Right.
This prom
Good
sequence.
Lord.
And they asked him, they were like, look, can we do something other than blood? And he's like, what, confetti, blue paint? He's like, what the fuck are you talking
to drop
about?
on her?
Yes.
Oh my
And
God.
Brian De Palma was like, no.
No.
And I'm so glad, because we talk a lot about studio meddling.
Right.
If they would have gone with
What else
anything,
could it be?
it had
Tar
to
and
have
feather
been.
her. I don't know.
It's fucking George Washington.
Yeah.
It had to be blood, and it ties in with the shower. It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
perfect.
And in the
Right.
book, Chris and Billy keep saying pig's blood for a pig as they're preparing for all of this.
It couldn't have been anything else.
No.
Yeah.
Sue bangs on the doors to be let back in, and another set of doors slam on Billy's lackeys, and Norma's right behind them. And I guess they're like stuck in the doors.
I thought they were getting electrocuted, because there was like
Maybe. I'm not sure.
I saw in the subtitles they said shocking noise or something, and I was like, but I don't hear it.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I guess they're just getting smushed.
Smushing noise.
Yeah.
But Norma starts screaming for help. It's like, oh, now it's not funny. But everyone at the prom begins to panic.
Sometimes you got to make yourself laugh, you know? This is all for Carrie.
The door concealing the fire hose opens and the water turns on full blast, hitting the people trying to leave. People are thrown into tables, thrown across the room, knocked over by the water. It is full-blown panic on the floor while Carrie stands perfectly still on the stage. Miss Collins comes to try to aid Tommy, who is still just down.
Yeah.
A guy tries to climb out the window, but the hose makes short work of him.
Yeah.
I love that she's like, no one's getting away. I don't even know who the fuck you are, but...
I don't know what part of that you didn't understand.
And his stuntman just crashes through that table.
Oh, yeah.
It's tough.
But the hose turns on Norma. She's knocked down, and we get a shot of her unconscious as the hose continues to spray her in the face. Now, the hose... She's just supposed to lay there and get sprayed by it or whatever. It literally busted her eardrum, the force of the water going into her ear. Yeah. I was like, good Lord.
No, it's tough. I saw on one of those documentaries, PJ Souls said that it knocked her out. The pain because her eardrum. And so after the scene was done, they took her to the hospital. But part of that is in the film.
But they finished the scene.
Yeah. She's a professional, I guess. You gotta...
Just step around, PJ.
Yeah. It's the 70s, Brian De Palma said.
Mr. Fromm and Principal Morton try to take control of the microphone, and Carrie turns the hose on them. Principal Morton is electrocuted immediately and falls to the floor dead, along with the student who grabbed onto him. Miss Collins stands against a wall and calls out to Carrie. Carrie turns her attention on Miss Collins and makes the backboard from the basketball hoop fall into her, slamming her against the wall. I guess basically cutting her in half.
Okay. Just a couple quick things here. This was the point of contention that I had. I understand you have to kind of make Carrie look indiscriminate as far as who she's killing.
Yeah.
Because she's got to kill everyone. But I feel like, especially considering the novel, Miss Collins should have lived.
I agree. Because she does live in the novel.
It upsets me a lot because I love this character so much.
Me too.
And she died after having done everything right.
Yeah, she did nothing wrong.
And that's very upsetting.
Right, but if she's in like a blind rage, she doesn't give a shit.
And that's true.
I feel like that's
and that's
the
where
point,
they're going
but
with it.
it really sucks.
No,
Still hurts a lot. The pain never goes away.
But Miss Collins is killed. Chris and Billy watch from the window in horror. Mr. Fromm grabs the microphone again, and I was like, didn't I just see your house get electrocuted?
Like, I ain't dead yet.
This time he is electrocuted, and he falls into the wall behind him. He catches on fire, and then the entire wall catches on fire.
Amazing.
It blazes behind Carrie.
Yeah.
And she was clearly very close to that flame.
Oh, yeah.
In real life. And it's just such an amazing visual.
Stiffly, she comes down from the stage and walks through the chaos that she's created. From outside the building, we see the doors open on their own, and Carrie exit the prom silhouetted against the flames still raging inside. Next, we see her walking down the middle of the street as a fire truck screams past her. Coming up behind her, Chris is driving Billy's car and decides to just run Carrie over.
Well, they were watching the whole time, so they're like, look, we need to...
We got to get this.
We got to take care of this.
With one look behind her at them, the car is forced to swerve around her and catches on fire. We see Billy and Chris inside the car as it rolls over and over. And after it lands, one look from Carrie and it explodes.
If looks could kill, she would be an Uzi. Now, the second thing I have for that is the fucking vehicle when it rolls. They don't roll with the vehicle, the camera.
No,
they literally roll the frame.
You can tell.
And you can tell, but in the moment, you're not taken
cool.
out of it.
Yeah.
And it's such a smart budget filmmaking situation decision.
For sure. Plus, it was safer for them.
Very much.
But Carrie finally arrives home, and we see that there's lights on inside, and the front door is open. Mm-hmm. Entering the house, she sees it completely filled with lit candles. She looks into her mother's room to find it empty, but there's candles burning on her bed.
Margaret was busy while she was gone. She's like, I'm going to chop.
Lighting candles. She cautiously walks upstairs and into the bathroom, completely missing her mother, who, dressed in white, is standing behind the bathroom door like a fucking creep.
Yeah.
The way that the light of the bathroom reveals her,
Yes.
it's so cool.
It's creepy as hell. But she runs herself a bath and washes all the blood off, sobbing as she does so. And I feel like this was more of a job for a shower.
Yeah.
But she made her choice.
I mean, I'm
Or
a shower man.
washcloth.
Yeah.
Or a washcloth.
She just moves the soap a bit. But she gets the job done.
She did, yeah, because she's completely clean when she gets out. She puts on her nightgown and leaves the bathroom. She calls out for Margaret, who silently comes out from behind the door. So she was there that whole time just waiting. Once Carrie sees her, she hugs her and begins to cry. Now, this is a major difference from the book because she came to kill Margaret
Right.
in the book.
Little different motivation here.
She also doesn't just fuck up the prom. She destroys the entire town.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah. You're doing amazing, sweetie.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that I think that it works a lot better in this film
I agree.
for her to come home to her mother to almost be like, you were right.
100, and I feel like that's what it is because
You
she's
know?
like, they did laugh at me.
Yeah.
But Margaret lets go of Carrie and drops to her knees. Carrie asks for her mother to hold her, but Margaret ignores her. Instead, she says she should have killed herself when he put it in her. It's like, Mom,
All right.
please.
Yeah. This is about me. I had a bad night.
This whole speech that Margaret gives is word for word in the novel. And Brian De Palma wanted to cut it out because he said it was too expositional this far into the film. And Piper Laurie is like, no, we need this. And again,
She's right.
thank you, Piper.
It's absolutely necessary, I thought.
100%. But she explains that they weren't married the first time that she and Carrie's father, Ralph, I guess, had sex. And Ralph said that it would be fine. But now she knows that sin never dies. She says that they lived sinlessly at first, sleeping in the same bed, but never having sex until one night she could tell he had that look in his eye. They got down to pray, but ended up doing it.
Instead, they just got down.
And she cries as she admits that she liked it. She tells Carrie that she should have given her to God when she was born, but she was too weak, and now the devil has come home to her. She says that they'll pray, and Carrie's like, yeah, let's just pray. Please stop talking. She drops down to her mother, and Margaret strokes her hair and says that they'll pray for the last time. She begins to pray, and Carrie joins her, but Margaret reaches out and grabs a stashed knife. She raises it and stabs Carrie.
The saddest thing about this is once she's stabbed, the look of shock on her face, but she still reaches out for her mother as she tumbles back.
I just want to talk about the parallel of her finally feeling accepted and part of something at prom for it to be ripped away from her when the blood hits her. And then now this moment of her mother finally holding her and stroking her hair and being a mom, and then it's ripped away from her when she fucking stabs her.
And on a superficial level, she did just clean up.
I just got the blood off.
I just cleaned my back.
And why does she look so happy? Her mom?
Well,
because
she thinks she's doing the right thing.
She
Yeah,
thinks she's
but
doing
come
something
on.
good.
She's
Stop
fucking horrible.
She's saving her daughter.
No.
I disagree.
Margaret. No. But the score for the film takes over, which I love this like weird theme. And I feel like it
Yes.
only plays when the two of them are together. But
It's like their theme.
yeah. But like you said, Carrie realizes what happens and she falls down the stairs. And Margaret, like you said, is smiling when she
Yeah.
comes downstairs and makes the sign of the cross with the knife. We see from Carrie's view as she crawls backwards away from Margaret as her mother continues to advance on her, knife raised and still smiling. Carrie stops against the door and tries to open it, but it won't. Margaret raises the knife again, and Carrie uses her mind to raise a knife from the kitchen and stab Margaret through the hand, causing her to drop her own knife. She sends sharp object after sharp object, pinning her other hand and stabbing her through the chest and stomach, mirroring the statue that she was forced to pray to in the closet.
And it's, again, I love reincorporation.
Yes.
It's like one of my favorite things about films, those little circles. The thing about the knives I saw on Eli Roth's History of Horror, Piper Laurie talked about how that was achieved. and it was basically the sharp objects were attached to wires, and she had a metal kind of garment on under her gown with blocks of wood where all the sharp objects would connect. And so they would just send them on wires through the air into those
But what
blocks
if it
of wood.
missed? 1976.
I'm sorry. Exactly. I don't know what
You'll
part.
be all right.
But the visual that's achieved is amazing. I just am very glad she's okay.
I was a little confused because the mom's making some noises.
Well, listen. Yeah.
Well, I also had some questions there.
She does moan a lot and laugh before finally dying with her head lolling over to the side with a quiet smile on her face. Now, Brian De Palma had called for her to just die, to just get stabbed and die.
Right.
And Piper Laurie was like, no, this is the best thing that's ever happened to her. She's finally going where she wants to go. This is pure ecstasy and pure pleasure for her. And again, would the same thing be achieved if she just and died? Yeah, but it's like
It wouldn't have been.
God damn, that adds so much. Her like, and Carrie even looks away like, God damn, Mom.
Yeah. Get a room. Fuck. I agree 100%. And it's just is a testament to how much sometimes an actor knows the character more than the director
Definitely.
does.
Right.
And she clearly did.
Yeah.
But
Like,
that,
she
I get
clearly
that
did.
now.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But we pan out and see her surrounded by candles, nearly crucified against the door frame. Carrie finally rises to her feet and screams, pulling the knife from Margaret's hand. She catches Margaret's body as it falls and hugs her, but just then the house begins to fall in. And in the book, they talk about when Carrie was a little girl and she got mad because Margaret was being Margaret, and stones rained on the house, like busted through the roof. And I feel like that's what it looked like at first.
I can explain that.
Please.
They filmed the scene that you're talking about at the beginning where a young Carrie is talking to a neighbor woman.
Yes.
And then
she's sunbathing. And
Exactly.
then Margaret's like, that's when the dirty pillows comes into play. And that,
and she gets pissed off. The stones rain from the sky. The problem was whenever they filmed it, the stones just flat out looked like rain. But they were like, well, you know, we can still have this payoff later when we have the house destroyed.
Right.
So what they did was that they had a machine that was going to rain stones on the house, the exterior that they built, but the machine jammed. And the worst part is that the machine jammed after they filmed the interior shots of stones coming through.
Oh.
So you see those shots in the
Yes,
film,
because that's what it looks like.
and they kind of had no choice. It's not exactly what they wanted, but it's effective.
Right,
It is.
right.
It
Even
is.
if you don't get the exterior. But they came up with a second solution of destroying the house, which we'll talk about in a second.
All right. But she pulls Margaret from the wall and takes her into the prayer closet. The house bursts into flames and continues to shake and collapse. We see Carrie bleeding from the mouth as she finally dies in that prayer closet, still holding on to her mother. We close in on that horrifying sculpture with its bright eyes. And from outside, the house is now no more than a pile of rubble as we fade to black.
And the fire was the other plan.
Right.
They're like, the stones don't work, fucking burn it down.
Burn that shit down.
Yeah.
At the Snell house, Mrs. Snell sits next to Sue as Sue sleeps uneasily. Mrs. Snell gets up to answer the phone and is relieved that it's her friend. She says she couldn't handle one more reporter. She tells her friend that Sue is better, but she's sleeping too much, even though that's to be expected. She says that the doctor says that Sue is young enough that she'll forget all about it. And I kind of call bullshit.
That's not. She's 17.
But that she didn't let Sue go to any of the funerals, and they plan to go away for a while. As Mrs. Snell speaks, we see into Sue's dream. She wears a white dress and carries a bouquet of flowers. She approaches the crater that was once the White House. There's a for sale sign in the shape of a cross with the sentiment, Carrie White burns in hell, written over it. Sue kneels down before it with tears in her eyes and places the flowers down. Suddenly, Carrie's bloody hand reaches through the ground and grabs Sue's arm. Sue wakes up screaming, and her mother holds her as she continues to cry and scream, holding her arm and shaking. She's like hysterical. The music swells as we zoom out from them. It cuts to black and the credits roll.
Interestingly, I saw in Visualizing Carrie, that documentary, the dream sequence was filmed backwards. And you can tell because the car in the background as she's walking moves backwards.
Wow.
So they actually filmed her from the grave back. And then they put it backwards to where she's walking towards the grave.
Well, it is like a real weird
right,
dream.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And that scene is like King of the Haze we were talking about.
Yeah.
I saw on one of the documentaries on the DVD that, that's her real mom. And she said that Amy Irving went completely, like she was so hysterical that she swore that she was like, Amy, it's okay. It's okay. Amy, it's okay.
It's like, oh, shit.
And she was scared that when the film came out that she was going to be calling her Amy in the thing. And she's like, but it didn't make it in.
Yeah.
No, the music was too loud. The screams,
But so what did you guys think of Carrie?
I love this movie.
Yes.
Still, even after all these years, I think that my appreciation for it only grows.
Definitely.
And I think that it's a special film, honestly. There is very little to nitpick about it. I think that it's also great that it's a faithful adaptation.
It is.
It's funny to me because I think about him seeing this and being like, hell yeah. And then him going to see The Shining and he's like, what the fuck? But I love this movie. It's technically impressive, emotionally impactful. The performances are amazing. The writing is great. I can't say enough. Performances are iconic.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
I really like this movie too.
Yeah.
I think the cast is great. The only thing, and you're right, there's no nitpicking, but the only thing is I wish Carrie lived. But I mean, that's
I do too. I just don't know how that would have gone.
I don't know either. And
She lived and left.
Well, the thing is like she went
like
through
the Incredible Hulk,
Yeah.
like going town to town.
she went through enough bullshit. I don't
Yeah,
feel
she
like
did.
she should have died.
I agree.
But then again, I mean, who knows what they would have done with the sequel and then fucked it up.
I think there is a sequel, but I've never had any desire
I know there's a remake
to watch
but,
it. No,
There's-
I think
there's
there's Carrie
both.
too.
It's called The
What?
Rage.
Yes.
And I believe, is it Amy Irving? I think she's in it
I think
as
so too.
Sue, which we don't need to talk about it.
No.
And again, like you said, I did say no nitpicking, but I do wish Miss Collins lived.
Agreed.
No, yeah.
But that's neither here nor there, I
No,
guess.
yeah.
I love this movie. I think that's pretty obvious. In the book, she doesn't die with Margaret. She still dies, but I think visually the way she dies in the movie is more impactful
Right.
and like poetic almost. But yeah, if I had my pick, she would have lived. Miss Collins would have lived. Her name is Miss Desjardins in the novel, and I don't know why they changed
They're
it.
like, Collins is easier to say.
Yeah, probably.
Just, yeah.
And I'm sure most people know this story, but I like it, so I'm going to tell it anyway. And obviously, this was Stephen King's first novel. He had
Right.
written short stories for magazines and such, but I think he was still like teaching high school or, but he had started this book based on kind of two girls that he had gone to school with, kind of melded them because they
Right.
both ended up passing away. But he started it and kind of felt like he had no business telling such a feminine story.
Right.
It's honestly surprising.
It is. And people who critique him for not writing female characters properly, it's a hard disagree from me. But he threw it in the trash and went to go watch TV. And his wife went in the room, found it in the trash, read it, and was like, no, you need to finish this.
Right.
And this started everything for him. He sold this for $2,500.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's crazy. But this is what started everything. And so it's like, what if the novel had never been written? What, it's just,
There would be so much that we missed out on.
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like the story itself, there's a magic to it that we even have it.
How would you not like? I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I don't know. But I love the book. The adaptation is incredible. I feel like we said, if you're going to change it, you need to improve upon
Right.
it. And I feel like Brian De Palma did.
And Stephen King feels like he did.
Yeah. But no, this movie is fantastic. So I guess we're at ratings. All the stuff I just said. I feel like this is a very important film too.
Right.
And I feel like it's iconic to the point where, like I said earlier, you don't have to have ever seen this to know what movie this is.
True.
Right.
Or to see a still from it, you know, you'd be like, oh, that's Carrie. Like, you just know. Sissy Spacek and Piper Laurie.
Holy shit. No pun. 'Cause
Unbelievable.
There's a lot of religion in this
Unholy
picture.
shit.
There you
go. No, I mean the acting, everything. I can't say enough about it. And so on a scale from 1 to 10, balanced buckets of blood, I'm going to step out on a ledge, probably alone, but I don't care. And I'm going to give Carrie 10 out of 10 balanced buckets of blood.
All right.
I don't care. I will now open up the floor.
Again, everything we've said.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I really do like this movie, and it was watching it. I did feel like the kids were all fucking jerks.
They were.
And, like,
Absolutely.
everybody was like for no reason, and I was like, "Fuck's y'all's problem?" You know? It's like she's got it hard enough at home. You
No
guys gotta be
shit.
dicks. It's like, damn. But I did. Like I said, the only thing I wish she lived. You know.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a story for another day.
Mm-hmm.
But for this, I'm gonna add a point to my score
Okay.
because we've had a lot of fun talking about it. And who am I kidding? Because John Travolta's in the
There you
fucking movie. Let's be real.
Just be honest.
So, out of 10 balanced buckets of blood, I'm going to give Carrie an 8.
Very good.
And, you know, Travolta just, I mean, he's not in it for long.
Yeah,
but
but thank you personally.
yes. Thank you, John. I love you.
Again, not to repeat everything I've already said. Everything about this movie for me works. I think that there is such an organic chemistry between the group of actors.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Piper Laurie and Sissy Spacek.
100%.
Just amazing. The thing about this movie is that it was made in 1976 and it still holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never needed to be remade.
No, I mean, it was. It didn't need to be.
No, it's perfect as is.
I think even Stephen King said that. He was like, why?
There's no
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
You're not going to top this movie.
No.
I'm glad you said that because thinking about that, you didn't.
No.
There's no reason.
No.
It's unnecessary. And again, you know, I hear a lot. They're like, well, you know, if we remake a movie, it'll give the kids of this generation their Carrie. It's like they've already got it because this is
Just show them
perfect.
this
It's still
movie.
here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
just
already,
show 'em this
we didn't burn
It
all the
didn't go
prints.
Yeah.
But again, you know, it's technically impressive, as I said, emotionally impactful. Those are two things that I look for in nearly every film that I watch.
Right.
And this had both of them in spades. And the top it all off, it's just a goddamn tragic story.
Yes.
She literally dies in the exact thing she was trying to escape from.
Yep.
It's so sad, but it's perfect.
Yeah.
But I digress because I can go on forever. Out of 10 balanced buckets of blood, this may surprise you, but I'm going to join you, Nay,
I'm very surprised.
and I'm going to give Carrie 10 balanced buckets of blood out of 10. This film is important
Yeah.
outside of Miss Collins living and them living happily ever after.
It's perfect.
It's perfect, and I can't give it anything less than a 10.
I was prepared to stand on this ledge alone.
Oh, no.
I'm glad to have company.
I honestly was prepared alone, and my thing is there comes a thing, because there are a couple scenes, like I said, that are a little, you're like, what is that?
Odd. Yeah.
But everything amazing about this film overshadows any of that shit.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And especially, tell me what, you know, the first thing I think of when I think of prom is Carrie, not even my own prom. So that just shows, you know.
The impact.
Exactly.
Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate Carrie, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at @ThePodMortem. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at Blood and Smoke, at RealStreeter84, and at Travis and WH. Please consider pledging to our Patreon and stay tuned until after the music for a special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons. And remember, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or they might just give you a night to remember. Until next time. Thanks for staying tuned for our special shout out to our Wendigo Getter patrons.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Woo! Every night is prom night.
Yeah.
Well, not this prom
No,
night.
no. Although we do hope you all laugh at us.
A special thank you to Chris Ontiveros, Kristen Lofton, Megan Martinez, Kimberly Bass, Melanie Van Houston, Sophie Hodson, Anthony Jerome M., Gary Fender, Jordan Nash, Kent and Allison Morton, Guy 54, Lala Tamez, Travis Anissa Hunter, Miguel Myers ATX, Mandy, Jennifer Perez, and Pierre Lombard. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
It means so much to us. You gave us a night to remember.
Remember.
You already said that.
Just remember that even when the rest of the world is cruel, we are here to help you carry on.
Right?
The girl's name was Carrie.
Yeah.
Carrie out of white.
Until next time.